Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, I'm a nasty woman because I'm like way not into bras right now and really into my titty freedom.
I am a nasty woman for the same reason.
Yes.
I not the whole titty freedom thing because I don't have boobs. But the nipple freedom
Mm.
because I basically just have nipples.
Yeah,
They're really nice nipples,
you do have
but
nice nipples.
they're
Do
very
they like point
prominent.
out? Like, are they?
They,
Yeah,
they point right at you.
they're
And I
like
used to
talking to
be
you.
oh my gosh, I used to be so self-conscious about it. I used to hate it, and now it's like one of my favorite things about myself.
Oh, it's wonderful.
I'm
You
so
know,
into it. I want everyone to see my nipple.
Marilyn Monroe, they had marbles sewn into her dresses for that reason.
See,
See, she
this
knows.
is just to show that there are so many things that we have been taught to be ashamed about our bodies or to try to change, and other people are trying to fabricate these things,
Right.
right? Like, I used to be so embarrassed of how big my butt was, and I used to get made fun of, like, having a big butt and thighs as, like, a tween and a teen. And now people are getting butt implants.
Yeah. I
And
remember
people,
where I was when the Sir Mix-a-Lot song came out because I felt completely different about my life when that song came out. Because all elementary school I was tormented. My nickname was Buffalo Butt because
oh
I had a
my
butt.
gosh, that's a good one,
Yeah.
baby.
And then Sir Mix-a-Lot happened and I was like, what? Sir, this guy
Uh,
likes it.
Also now, paler skinned women who have a lot of freckles were
Mhm.
always kind of like embarrassed of that.
Yeah.
And now freckle tattoos are a thing.
Yeah. And people paint them on with makeup.
Yeah. So this is, it's not about keeping up with trends or anything like that. It's just about knowing that like there's things about yourself that you probably don't like that someone else probably wishes they had.
Yeah, and you can
So
explore all those things. I saw our
yeah,
friend JVB put on Instagram the other day that she's barefaced and she was saying that she's in a really I don't remember what exactly she said, but something about like not being into makeup at the moment. That feels whack
yeah,
to her at the moment. And I was like, interesting. Really, like I'd like to talk to her about where her thought process is at. That's awesome. And also, I'm in the opposite state. I'm like, can I please
yeah,
wear fake eyelashes every day? Will they work
yeah.
when I'm swimming laps, or do I have to take them off for that?
I
And
love your Instagram
the reviews.
swimming lap lipstick reviews. Yeah, those are the best.
It was totally unintentional. I'm just always wearing lipstick, but it stays on really well.
Yeah.
One of my friends was
I
like, "What does that mean? Is it in the lipstick?" And I'm like, "I don't want to think about that."
I don't want to. I don't want to. Don't rain on my
Don't ruin
lipstick
it.
parade. Don't ruin it for me. I don't need that kind of negative energy in my life.
Yeah.
I'm actually into like a pretty barefaced stage right now as well, which for me because I love black lipstick is different. But I think it's just because it's summer.
Yeah.
And I think that that's just natural for me. I'm like, oh, in the summer, I just like maybe no makeup or tinted moisturizer plus a little, beachy bronzer and a waterproof mascara and like a clear lip gloss situation. I guess that's not barefaced, but still
It's a barefaced look.
a barefaced. Yeah, or just no makeup,
Yeah.
no makeup either way. But like that's just for me. Like as we transition into warmer weather, I'm more interested in that. If I go out at night, I might do like a red lip, but for the most part, I'm staying pretty basic
Yeah.
with the makeup situation. And then when winter rolls around, I'll be like cat eye and navy metallic lipstick all over again.
Oh, and
Yeah,
here's a
because
great
it's all
example that like none of this has to be like the end all be all of empowerment. Neither of us is more or less empowered because
nope.
of our choices with our fucking faces
No.
at the moment.
No, because here's the difference, right? When you do things for yourself, as opposed to from a place of seeking validation
Yeah.
or seeking acceptance, that's when you're empowered. I don't wear makeup or dress the way I do or do anything that I do because I think that it's going to impress someone else or validate me or make me any more worthy of love and connection and belonging than I already am inherently as a person on the planet. I do it because I like it, because I enjoy self-expression. And so we do get a lot of questions from women asking like, how do I know if, changing my body or dyeing my hair or putting on makeup is for me and not for someone else? And that's certainly an inquiry process.
Yeah.
That I think, we all need to go through on our own. I can't tell you how you're going to know that.
Yeah. And I think it's
But
ongoing. For me,
yeah.
it's like I've never. Oh my gosh. Have I told you about my 13-year-old makeup situation?
No.
So I had terrible acne, the kind where people were always saying it's too bad about her face.
Oh, no.
I know. And it started in first grade. My mom took me to the dermatologist because I had acne, but she thought like she's in first grade, that can't be the case. And it was just acne. So I've done all of the Accutane, Retinary, everything. And then it just stopped when I was like 19, which some people thought was unfair. And I'm like, I had this shit my whole life. I think it's fair. I still get like a blemish, but it was like, like I didn't have a patch of skin on my forehead that didn't have a blemish on it. So it was like that. And so I started wearing makeup pretty young too to cover it. And I think my mom felt so bad that she was just like, yeah, sure, whatever you want to do. So when I spent the night at people's houses, I would go to sleep with my makeup on and sleep like this so that my makeup wouldn't like touch the pillow or like be embarrassing. I would wake myself up in the middle of the night, take my makeup off, put on my whatever crap I was putting on my face at the time, and then wake up again at sunrise, put on a full face of makeup, and go back to sleep.
Oh my goodness.
So because I did all of that work historically, now it's important to me that like if I need to run somewhere, I can just go. And that's not, I don't even think about that anymore. I'm not like, oh, I might think like, do I have mascara like on my cheeks? Like I might want to like spit on my thumb.
Yeah.
Make sure I look like I'm okay.
Yeah. Right, yeah, exactly. I'm all right. I haven't been crying, or I have been, but you don't need to see the evidence.
But I'm not a complete mess right now. I want to like not have my mouth smell. But for the most part, I'm not embarrassed of my face. I laugh at that. There's a social media like no makeup day, and I'm like, that's every day I'm on Instagram before I put. If I have something to say, I'm gonna talk about it before I'm.
I'm not gonna put on makeup before I do it.
Yeah, so it's just about seeing what your boundaries are.
Absolutely, and I think that you don't have to show up barefaced on social media to be authentic. No. But if you are afraid of putting anything out there and letting yourself be seen until you look a certain way, that might be something that you want to explore.
Yeah. And you might even be at, you know what, bitches, I need to have my makeup on all the time, and that's not your business. And I'm like,
my fucking prerogative.
That's your body.
Somebody recently was talking to me, a gentleman whom I respect and admire so much, who is in all other ways a feminist and a social activist and, all of this, wonderful guy, said something to me that was so surprising. He was talking about a mutual friend of ours who goes to our gym and said, somebody should talk to her about her makeup. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, well, tell her that she doesn't need to wear all that makeup when she comes to the gym. And I was like, she knows she doesn't need to. She does it because she fucking wants to. Yeah. And he was like, yeah, but she doesn't. And I was like, I don't see how that's any of your fucking business. If a woman wants to wear makeup to the gym, you don't have to make that mean something.
Right.
That's the thing, right? That's what we see. We see a woman come to the gym with makeup and we think, how dare she come into the gym with makeup? Doesn't she know what she's here for? Like, why do you feel like And I'm just like, listen, motherfucker, I get teased at the gym every day, and it's become a running joke because of these nails. Mm-hmm. They're always long and pointy, and I won't jump up and grab a pull-up bar.
No, I'm not wasting these.
I'm not wasting these fucking nails. I'm not wasting these nails. And when I have to pick up like bumper plates, like off of the stack, I have to like get to like the palms of my hands, and I'm like trying to pick them up like this, like, cause I can't grab anything with my hands. I am unashamed. I will be like, if I have to pull weights off the sled, I'm like, can someone pull these weights off? I don't want to break my nails. I don't give a fuck. And then you know what? I will dance pull-ups around you. Okay. I don't they're my fucking nails. Yeah. I'm allowed to have long nails and wear fucking sparkly lip gloss and try to find the perfect waterproof mascara to go to the gym and then walk into that gym and do whatever the fuck I want with my own body. So the thing is, like, if you feel like you have to put on makeup to go to the gym because you're embarrassed or you're ashamed or you feel unworthy, those are feelings that you probably want to explore. Yeah. Right? Because I don't want you to feel that way. I want you to feel like you can show up and take up space no matter what.
In any way you want to.
In any way you want. But it's still nobody else's prerogative. Yeah. Whether or not you wear makeup to the gym or you don't want to show your bare face in public. That's still your own choice.
Yeah.
it's still your own choice. Now, if it's rooted in feelings of unworthiness or fear of showing up, yes, I think it's great to explore those feelings because that's going to open up a lot for you.
Yeah.
If you know, in that exploration process, but it's still nobody else's job to tell you that you shouldn't wear makeup to the gym.
No, and that's where the distinction is that I think some people struggle with, is a question I get a lot. It's like, well, people are going to judge you. Yeah, people judge me all the time. I'm obviously not dressed for other people because I get a lot of eyes telling me that there's something wrong with how I'm
Well, let's talk about what we just talked about the other day about the swimsuit thing, because we both have had similar experiences.
So I am just really feeling myself this summer, and I'm acting like it. And I was at the pool, and my top was like revealing, but not terribly revealing because I was swimming laps in it. I mean, it has to like do the things.
Yeah.
And so
but you got them big old boobies.
I do have big old boobies.
So anything is going to be revealing, I feel like.
Yes, and this woman made a comment about my breasts being out in like a negative way, like I didn't know, but like just, and what? My friend Priscilla said I should have said I can't hear you over my breasts, which I'll keep in mind for next time. But yeah, I mean, it just that's where the line is. So like, you're allowed to notice me. I'm here. I'm in public. This is what I'm wearing. It's not asking you to look away. Actually, you're welcome to look at me. You're not welcome to leer at me. You're not welcome to come in my space. You're not welcome to make comments. And you are not welcome to assert that whatever your opinion is about what you're observing about me should determine how I show up. That's what you're not welcome to do. So like, yeah, you're welcome to sit in your little lawn chair and be pissed at my boobs. You're welcome to judge me and my hair and my activities and my eyelashes. You're welcome to spend your energy thinking whatever you want to about me. You're not welcome to make that my problem.
Exactly. Don't make it my problem. You can have your feelings about whatever you want about me, but that's your issue, not mine.
And trust and believe that I have no feelings about what you're wearing unless I'm like, do it. Otherwise, that's not how I'm wasting my time.
Nope. Not even a little bit. So I had a similar comment because, you know, I only wear thong bikinis or like very cheeky bikinis. Yeah. I learned really early on while I was starting to gain weight back after being super lean, that I didn't want to try to encapsulate all that was my backside. Because
it doesn't want to be held in.
It didn't want to sit, you know, it was like, it's really funny because when I was super lean, like by, you know, fucking societal standards, I did it because I like felt like I needed to in order to be worthy. And that's a whole other issue that we talked about on our body image episode. But but the funny thing is that I would like cover up, even though I was like, you know, societally like perfect.
Right.
And now that I'm like thick, I'm like, let's just take it all off.
Let it breathe.
Yeah, and let it breathe. It has nothing to do with the size of my body. It has to do with that journey of like self-exploration and acceptance. But I do find from an actual like, you know, body standpoint that when you have a bigger butt, it's actually more flattering to uncover it. Than it is to try to, you know, when you wear those like full butt suits, it's just, that's the unflattering part. And we think we got to cover it up because we're like, oh, it's big or it's dimply or it's jiggly. Like mine is all of those things in all of its glory. But when I wear a thong, I feel like it's more aesthetically appealing. I feel like it's sexier to me than when I cover it up. So you will never see me, at least this summer, and in the previous four summers, wearing anything at the beach or at the pool that covers up my butt because I'm going to let it all hang out. So last summer, I was with a mom who always wears a full bathing suit plus a shirt on top of the bathing suit and shorts usually. She's like always covered up. Yeah. And she was like, do you know that your bum is out?
What?
And I was like, oh my God, no.
Oh no.
I had no idea what clothing I put on before I walked out of my house. Yeah, I know. You think that's an accident? Shit, that is by design, girl. Yes, okay? You're welcome. You're welcome.
You're all welcome.
You're all welcome. And it was, I think it was less about, well, it's always less about you than it is about them, right?
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't because she was like, oh my God, your butt's gross and nobody wants to see it. This is a script that she's following, right?
Yeah.
And probably has more to do with how she feels about her own body than how I feel about mine. So,
well, I'm inspired. I've been looking for a bathing suit in my size that I can have my butt out in, and struggling with that a little bit. So if anybody
need to go a size down so that it just goes up.
Okay. Okay.
Because even certain suits that I have that aren't meant to necessarily go up, I pull them up.
Okay.
Like, let's go, Wedgie City.
So just doctor it. Yeah. I could even just I can sew. You
could sew it. You could just cut some out. You could just make. What would be really cute? What I really like are the one pieces that are the high cut. Mm-hmm. Those are really nice because then it goes. It's cheeky and it also goes high cut, and so you're like, it shows off your legs.
Oh, I've really been looking for this. The Ashley Graham collection on Swimsuits for All has something similar, but not as cheeky as I want it to be. I'm looking.
Yeah, you might just have to make that happen for women everywhere.
Yeah, you're welcome, Kansas. I'm gonna have my butt out soon.
So, if you see a need for something in the world and nobody's filling it, you've got to fill it.
You got to create that shit.
It's your sacred purpose.
Yeah. So Q&A today. What sort of cues do we have today?
Well, let's see. We went over a few questions before we started recording, and now I forgot them all. Big surprise. Big surprise, Neghi. Good job.
Well, one of them that I had that we could jump into is the sex one. And the woman who wrote to me was talking about in the context of marriage, though I think this is easily in the context of any sexual relationship. She wanted me to talk about, or us to talk about, what are the consequences of a woman having sex when she feels obligated to and just to get it over. And I think, I don't think the consequences of that are something that that we can do quickly, or that a lot of women don't even already know about. Like, the consequences suck. It's like making it an obligation and not for you. You're significantly less likely to be experiencing pleasure in that moment. It will probably change your attitude towards your partner because you're allowing what feels like disrespect if it's not something that you want, But I think another way to approach the same issue is to think about like how to ask your partner for what it is that you do want, so that you're having sex that you're excited about. And for me, that looks like foreplay is like the 24 hours before sex happens. So it's not like, and I think this is gross generalization, so not for everybody, but I think men tend to get turned on quite a bit quicker than women. It's like, oh, ready, and we have less of a quick ready switch. It's like a usually more like a
I have a ramp up.
Yeah, and so it's like,
unless I'm ovulating, and then all bets are off.
Yeah, that's by design. So like, like touch my knee and like maybe slap my ass in the kitchen and like tell me I look pretty, and not needing like a parade, but it's like, notice me.
Parade would be nice
to me. A parade would be lovely. I wouldn't turn down a parade. That would probably end in some epic times. But I mean, it's just like little things. Notice me. Make like do things that make me feel like I'm noticed and I'm sexy and I feel beautiful, and like start from there and not from, oh, I got a hard on.
What should I do with it?
That's what feels like.
I have this erection.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with it. Just here's it. Yeah. I think that the more insidious aspect of this is that we have been taught as women that it is our obligation and our role and our duty to provide sexual pleasure to our husband at any given time. Yeah. And I think that a lot of this is cultural. I think that we're starting to get away from that because we're not, we're in a different generation now where we're more sex positive, and we are women are feeling more empowered in their sexuality. However, many of us, like I'm 35, and I know that girls in my generation and friends of mine who are my age and a little bit older, were told by their moms that, you have to always please your husband so that, you know, whenever he wants it and do whatever he tells you so that he doesn't cheat on you, you know, or so that like you're fulfilling your wifely duties. Like these were things that women of my generation were told by their parents because, you know, that's what their mothers were taught.
Which doesn't prevent cheating.
No, it sure doesn't. Nothing prevents cheating. Nothing prevents cheating.
Except for cheaters not cheating.
Except for cheaters not cheating. That's it. That's the only thing. There's nothing you can do that can keep somebody from cheating on you. Yeah. That's not a thing you can do. You know, we don't control what happens ever. No. So this to me is what's more insidious about this phenomenon, right? That like I think a lot of women can probably relate to this, to like having, you know, sex with their partner because, you know, they feel like it's their job or their duty or their obligation, or just do it to get it over with so that they're, you know, so that the person backs off. And, you know, that's low key not acceptable.
It's not acceptable. It's not acceptable.
Yeah. But what I really think that is important to consider is that this is a script. This is a narrative, and it's not one that we have to commit to. It's not one that we have to play out. It was a story that was passed down to us by some, you know, arbitrary societal narrative, something that you were taught by your parents, some sort of generational thing, some sort of cultural thing. This is learned behavior. Yeah. This is not something that has to be, you don't have to do that. Your role as a woman is whatever the fuck you decide your role as a woman is. It's what you decide within your marriage, like your role as a wife. That's an agreement. That's an accord that you have with your partner.
That's ongoing.
Right? That's ongoing and can always be renegotiated. That is not something that it's like, well, you know, this is what women have to do. So the old school belief being that like men go to work and bring home the bacon and women clean the house and rear the kids and are always available for sexual activity whenever the man gets an erection. Like we are not in the 1950s anymore. We're making our own rules. Yeah. And so if this is something that you're feeling, I like, as Erin said, have that conversation with your partner about like, hey, these are ways that I would like to be more sexually pleased because your pleasure is extremely important. And also consider the fact that like this is not a role that you have to take on. No. That is it is within your power to decide to reject that construct and decide that like I don't have to do this just because I chose to marry this person.
Yeah. I've been all over the place with this because, well, for so many reasons, but one of them being that like all of the ways that sex had played a role in my life had not been extremely positive or about my pleasure. And so, you know, 11 years with somebody is a lot of time to unpack all of that stuff, right? And so for a while, my attitude towards it was just kind of like, this is not my job, and fuck off with thinking that that's my job. And I don't think that my husband ever like presented to me that that was my job, but that's sort of how I felt about sex, was just like, fuck off. This is my space, not yours. And not yours specifically, Jamal, but like yours, anybody. This is just me. And kind of processing my own anger about that. And then now has moved to like a much more positive space where for the first time I'm really just considering my own pleasure and thinking about like, not like to the exclusion of his. I'm not like, you know, I'm not going to say anything lewd, but I'm not doing things to harm him and pleasure myself. Like that's not what's happening. But I'm approaching sex from the perspective of, what do I want? How often do I want to have sex? How do I want to have sex? And what do I want to lead up to that? What works for me? You know, what's my favorite? And like really trying to approach that aspect of our partnership from my own perspective, and not just like, am I or am I not giving it to him? But like, what do I want? And that's more fun for him too. And it's been a much more exciting conversation than the one where I was like, I'm going to need you to leave me alone. Yeah. You know? It's better for everybody when I'm like, yeah, me too. And here's what that looks like for me. What does that look like for you? Let's discuss.
Let's discuss. Let's both bring to the table what we're interested in and how we'd like to see this thing go down, because this is how we're both going to have so much more of a pleasurable experience.
Yeah, and that feels so much more liberating to me than being left alone, though it's important to me that if I want to be left alone, that that's going to happen and be respected. So, you know, even if it was just for my own benefit, going through that part of it was necessary. But like now it's just like, me too. It's not, I'm not doing anything because I feel obligated to. He doesn't want that because that's not good times. I can pull out some moves, but it's not the same.
No.
You know? And so it's a negotiation, and it's one where we both are showing up like this could be great. Let's talk about it.
Let's discuss.
Yeah.
All right. So another question that we've been getting a lot actually from all of y'all witchy women is about tarot, because Erin and I both practice tarot and do a lot of partake of a lot of magical rituals. And we have a lot of women asking how to get started with tarot. And, you know, just where they just don't know where to begin. They want to get into it. They don't know the process. How do I learn about it? And so on and so forth. I think we might have similar approaches on this. I think that if you want to approach tarot from a more intuitive standpoint, I would look at the different decks available to you, of which there are a plethora. And purchase a deck whose imagery is appealing to you. You know, you've got to love the images. You've got to love the cards. You've got to feel connected to the images, because that's where the intuitive practice is going to come into play. But for a lot of people, that they want to get more intuitive, and that in and of itself, that's already too much. They're like, but I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to, you know what I mean?
Tell
I don't
me
know
which
how
deck
to, like,
to buy.
Tell me which deck to buy. So, so if you want to get started with tarot from like a purely like, I just want to learn step-by-step standpoint, and then you will likely open up to more intuitive practices. But if you want to approach it from a more academic standpoint, from a more like, teach me how to do this standpoint, I don't usually recommend the Rider-Waite, because I personally don't really love the deck. But it is one of the easier, because there's all that, like, you know, historical imagery that a lot of it is based in misogyny and
not great.
and things like that. But it is pretty easy to intuit. Like, the images really speak for themselves. So it's a great way to learn because of that, and also because there are a lot of resources that are directly geared towards that specific imagery. So there's going to be tons of books and different resources available to you on the Rider-Waite. So that is one option. There's a book called Learning the Tarot. I think it's by, I think her name is Tara Bunning. And that is a great book for learning tarot. And then there's also the one by Benebell Well. What is that one? It is, all right, I'll try to remember it and we can put it in the show notes, but it's basically, it's holistic tarot or something of the sort. It's a huge book. It's basically like a tarot Bible. So these are ways that you can learn from a more academic standpoint. That's, again, not the deck I would necessarily recommend because I don't love it, but there are tons of decks that come, like, you know, beautiful decks that are made by, you know, independent artists that come with a book. And, you know, these books are written by the artists. They have their own insight, their own interpretations. And that's a great way to get started because you can start to, you know, pull the cards, read about them, and then over time begin to learn how to tap into your own intuition. So that was all over the place, but
yeah. And I usually recommend, like, Google witch store and then go there and look and see what's appealing to you. And it doesn't have to be like, this thing called to me from the moment I walked in the door. It glimmered and then danced when I walked towards it. Like, it doesn't have to be like that. It can just be like, I walked straight to this thing and I thought it was really pretty. And so I got it to see if it was for me. Pendulums is another interesting option for sort of tapping into your intuition. But there's all kinds of tools. The one note I would like to make for people who are just like looking into it is being mindful of being respectful of the practice. Because for some people it is an ancestral practice. It is a religious practice. I'm a secular witch, so it is not religious for me, but it is spiritual. And so, you know, the cards themselves, the things themselves do not necessarily have any special power. You're not going to pick the wrong one. If you don't like it, you can move on from it. It's not that deep. And these are things that are very meaningful to some people. So just like an altar cross is really just like a piece of metal or wood or whatever, for the people who worship at that altar, it's a very big deal. So as you're like exploring these things, just be respectful that it's not like an accessory. It's a thing, and you may or may not be into it, and either way is fine.
But if you want to get into it, then there are ways that you can learn about that. I definitely, like I said, I definitely recommend books. If you are interested in just learning more about it and you don't have a lot of people in your sort of circle who you can have these conversations with, learning the tarot, and then the holistic, I think it's called the Holistic Guide to the Tarot, or Holistic Way to the Tarot, and learning these different things. There's a couple different websites that are really great. The Hood Witch is a really great one. Numinous is another one that's really great. There are these different websites where you can, learn about astrology, you can learn about tarot, and those are ones that I think are more modern. So I think I relate to them a little bit more, and that are really sort of down to earth, and you can kind of connect with them. At the end of the day, your tarot practice is going to be based on you. I personally, I don't usually do a full spread every day. I only do one every once in a while. My daily spread usually looks like 1 to 2 cards. It's either I ask for a message for the day, and I do a whole questioning process of like what it is that I'm experiencing, what it is I'm going through. I tap into my internal world, and then I shuffle my cards. I usually smudge first with sage or Palo Santo. I grab a crystal off my altar that is representative of the energy that I'm trying to manifest that day. I shuffle my cards, and then I choose a card from the deck that feels like whatever my gut's like, pick that one. And I pick one out, and then I journal about it. And that's my practice. Sometimes I'll do 2 cards. I'll do first a manifestation card, and then a release card. So something, energy that I want to manifest, energy that I want to release. And I'll journal about it that way. And that's a way that I have decided is for me. So there are all these books, there are all these different spreads, and all these different, this is how you do it. And I'm just like, that's cool. And I respect that practice. And I absolutely I'm down with that. But for my daily practice, this is what works for me.
Yeah. Well, and I would hazard to say most tarot practitioners would not recommend that you give yourself a full spread reading every day. You can excessively use anything. But for reference, I think maybe most people would understand, be they Christian or not, because Christian is such a dominant religion in this country. Asking how to approach tarot is a little bit like asking how do you approach the Bible.
Yeah.
It's like, some people flip to a passage, and some people read start to finish, and some people go to study groups, and some people need a teacher that tells them how to interpret it, and some people like to interpret it themselves, and some people like lots of, so there's not a wrong way, which I think is maybe the main thing that most women who are writing to us need to hear. Like, you're not going to screw it up.
Nope.
I've purchased a deck too that I thought were for me, and as soon as I started working with them, was like, this isn't mine, and then later found the person they belonged to, which was great. So you can mess up, and that's fine too. And
you don't have
looking for what you're into. Like, look at what's pretty. What images do you like? It doesn't have to be like this. This feels like my inner child. It's like, do you think it's pretty? Do you want to look at this on a regular basis?
Do you want to look at it? Exactly. I have a friend who has 25 decks. And I tease her all the time because she's always texting me and being like, have you seen this deck? I'm like, bitch, you don't need another deck. But she's like,
does she use them all?
She does. She goes in phases.
Okay, because I have 5, and I feel like I'm not taking care of all of them.
I've got 5, and I almost always use just the one.
Yeah.
But then every once in a while, I want one of the other ones. I also think that for me, it's important to have the one that's mine, because that's the one that I never use for readings for other people. So like my Star Child Tarot deck, I never pull those cards for anyone else. Yeah. That deck is all my energy. And it's easier for me to keep that separate, so I don't have to go through a whole energetic smudging of other people's energy in my own deck. But yeah, she's got like a whole bunch of decks, and she's just, you know what? I've accepted that about myself. I'm just a collector. You know, she's like, she's into it. She's just like always on the news. She's like, hey, this one's coming out and this one's coming out. And she gets all these she's like, I'm on the pre-order list, you know, she's like all over it. But at the end of the day, you've got to think that it's beautiful. You've got to like it, because you're going to want you want something that you're going to want to pull out every day, and something where the images just resonate with you in some way, you know, like if you really like animals, there's the wild unknown. Mm-hmm. Right? That was all animal imagery. So if you're really into animal imagery, that's one. If you're really into like, if you like Frida's art, for example, there's one, I think it's the Serpent Fire, has a lot of that type of imagery, and that, you know, that those colorways and stuff like that. I like the Star Child Tarot because I like the softer, you know, the colors, the watercolor, the imagery. I like all the moons and the geometry that's involved in it, you know, and I like that it's very, very highly feminine, and there are very few like male images in the deck. You know, these are just different preferences. So like Erin said, every city has a witch store. Yep. Every single one. Trust me, because every time I travel, the first thing I do is Google witch store, because I want to visit one, you know, in every place I go to. And there are people there you can talk to, and you can. The main thing is, I think a lot of women are asking, like, how do I get started? Is like, they feel called to it and it looks interesting to them and appealing to them, but they're afraid, like you said, to get it wrong. Yeah. Or they're like a little embarrassed to walk into a store and be like, I don't know what I'm doing here. But the people who are there to help you. They want you to come into your practice. Yeah. You know, they're very inviting.
Want to sell you something.
Exactly. I want to tell you shit.
Let them help.
Okay and be like, you know what? I don't know. I know that I want to start a tarot practice. I don't know where to start. Can you help me? You know, that's okay too. But yeah, go in, look around, or, you know, like I said, we live in a time where you can get on social media and there are options for you in terms of tarot everywhere.
Yeah, you can join a Facebook community. A lot of those stores have classes you could take if you wanted to. There's a red tent group near me that does tea and tarot, where like people get together and read one another and practice. I mean, there's all kinds. You just gotta like Google it, ladies.
I follow on Instagram. I follow Tarot Mama, and she's got a lot of really cool stuff. I follow Serpent Fire, which is Devaney Litha Wolf. She's the creator of Serpent Fire and the forthcoming She Wolf tarot. Wild Soul Healing, Lindsay Mack. She's the one who does the tarot scopes for the Numinous. She's great as well. So these are lots of like online resources for you, or, you know, go into, like Erin said, go into a store and learn, or take a class. You know, there's all kinds of stuff that you can get into. The most important thing is to know that you can't do it wrong, and to be respectful. You know, I treat my cards with respect. I don't just leave them lying around. Mm-hmm. I always smudge them with sage or with Palo Santo before and after I do a reading. I will oftentimes have like a crystal that is energetically attuned to whatever is going on in my life at the moment, and place it on top of my deck on my desk. You can put it in a nice little velvet bag or a silk bag. These are options, but, you know, really treat the cards like with the same kind of respect that that you would want to treat your internal landscape, because that's really, you know, that's like, really,
what do you do with your journal? Do you throw it on the floor after you write your deepest pain in it? Probably not. Like, it has a place, you know. Mm-hmm. Tahitian tarot is one of my favorites. Yeah. So, yeah. And also, I think we talked about this before on the Rituals podcast, but if all of that sounds overwhelming, I think a really easy place to start is oracle cards, because they tend to have the meaning written right on them. And so you don't have to do as much research or learning or intuitive. It's like, this says, I need courage, because it says, you need courage.
You need courage. One website that I like a lot that has a lot of options in terms of buying options. Mm-hmm. It's a store called Everyday Magic. It's in North Carolina, and they have an online shop. It's shopeverydaymagic.com. She's got tons of different decks, tons of books, tons of crystals, all kinds of things available to you. And the prices are reasonable. And it's a really easy online shop to navigate. And it's a great way to just start looking at stuff online if you don't have something necessarily close to you. So you can just kind of see what it is that you like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I put in that hashtag on Instagram and see all the cards too. That's a...
Oh, yeah.
Just jump down the rabbit hole. You know, you do it with lipstick swatches, do it with tarot.
Exactly. Get on into it, girl. Yeah. All right.
What else?
One question that we got was any advice on showing up vulnerably and powerfully in the workplace?
Well, neither of us are in a workplace right now. So there's that. But I have been.
Well, I'm in it. This is it. Yeah.
where there's like bosses and meetings and whatever. It's important to me that I'm always showing up in my integrity. I've had a lot of different kinds of jobs and a lot of different kinds of bosses, many of whom did not appreciate my honesty and what it looks like when I show up in my integrity, because sometimes that is with like questions of policy and standing up for myself. If I'm asked to do something that I think is unfair, or if I'm treated in an unfair way, I'm likely to stand up for myself, which has, for me, led to leaving jobs. And I mean, I've written more than a few CEOs about policies. Of course, I was a social worker too, so it depends on what kind of job you have. But in those sorts of jobs, I was writing about treatment of kids, you know, so it wasn't like, I refuse to wear yellow.
Right. Like, what an arbitrary thing, right?
Like a bigger deals, you know, deals. But for me, that's just always about, like, if I have to go in and stand my ground or ask hard questions or do whatever, I check with myself, you know, before I go in, like, do a gut check. And I'm like, what is it that I need to do to remain in this place and be in my integrity? Does that mean that I need to rediscuss something that happened the other day? Does that mean that I need, you know, what does that mean I need to do? And sometimes that's be emotional and vulnerable. And sometimes that's stand really firmly in my belief system. And sometimes that's go with the flow because this isn't the time to like throw down about something. And that's going to change every day. But it's just about coming home from my job feeling like I showed up as my full self and in my integrity. So that's going to look different. But I don't believe that looks like not crying or like wearing a pantsuit or what, you know, like there's not rules about that.
Yeah. I really do want a pantsuit though. I lament the fact often that I don't have one.
Well, get one.
It would have to be heavily tailored is the thing, because they don't make pantsuits for short, meaty hobbits. So I would have to like... It would have to be heavily tailored. I'd have to like find the one that I was just like, this is my pantsuit.
Can I ask where you're going that you're going to wear this pantsuit?
I mean, anywhere, you know.
The gym.
I could wear a pantsuit to the gym. I can do whatever I want. Maybe from now on, I only do speeches in pantsuits.
And I only do them in thongs.
I don't know. You know, totally. There you go. Totally off topic, but a relevant tangent. Someone commented on a picture of me at the Women's Strength and Empowerment weekend when I was giving my talk, which I fucking crushed, by the way.
You did.
I did. And that should be what we're discussing, not what I was wearing.
Yeah.
So this is where it gets interesting, right? It was a woman who commented, a couple different women. I was wearing a mini dress with a velvet blazer. And I have a big butt and legs, and sometimes my clothing rides up. And somebody mentioned, Neghar's talk was great, or love everything Neghar says, but it looks like she forgot her pants. And I was like, really? Is this where we are in 2017? As a woman, you're going to show up to a woman's space and criticize what I'm wearing? This is really where we are? And I responded, well, it's a really great thing that I get to choose what I want to wear on my own body. Done. Like,
oh my God.
This is so the lesson here being, let us, even in situations where we think like, oh, this is a safe space for women, we still need to be cognizant of the language. We need to be aware of the fact that, like, if you're looking at a picture of me and your first instinct is she looks like she forgot her pants, maybe you can maybe dial it back and ask yourself, oh, where does that trigger come from? Where does the need for me to police this woman's clothing in a safe, publicly, in a space that is meant to be safe for women and a space that is meant to empower women? Where does that desire come from? And maybe I shouldn't say it.
Right.
Maybe I should explore what that's about for me. I mean, I'm not offended. I don't give a fuck because I'm going to wear whatever the fuck I want and I'm going to let those fucking thunder thighs roam free.
Well, and what does that mean? Like, you're not allowed to be sexy and have words to say at the same time?
Yeah. I really like what she has to say, but where are her pants? They're in my closet. I mean,
not on my body.
They were in my suitcase. They weren't on my body. This is the outfit I chose to wear. I thought it was amazing.
You should get some of those invisible pants. Have you seen those? The invisible jeans that like ASOS has right now?
Invisible?
They're invisible. They're like plastic, like clear. That's like a thing that's happening. I don't know if it's really going to happen. Maybe it's like clear boots.
Plastic. I'm not into plastic pants.
But for that woman, it would be great.
It would be great. I'd be like, here are my fucking pants.
Here are my pants.
Here are my fucking pants. So when it comes to vulnerability in the workplace, I agree with Erin. For me, the most important thing is that I'm always in my integrity. And that's not something that's going to always have a baseline of like being in my integrity means always crying at work or being in my integrity means never showing emotions. Like this is something that for me is a case by case basis, is just always being able to tap into myself and ask like, am I standing in my truth? Am I standing in my integrity? Am I speaking and acting from a place of truth? Brene Brown talks a lot about how vulnerability in the workplace is not vulnerability in general, but specifically vulnerability in professional situations is not oversharing. Yeah. And that there's a very fine line between vulnerability and oversharing in professional settings. So speaking up about things that that you don't agree with, being able to tell your boss like, I can't come to work today because of something emotional that's going on, or being able to show up vulnerably in that space, being at work and not feeling like you have to wear a mask, like. Yeah. These are ways that you can show up vulnerably in a professional setting, but there's a very fine line between that and oversharing. And Brene Brown talks a lot about that. And I think that's important. I think that we confuse vulnerability with just like diarrhea of the mouth. Yeah. Or like, or saying things to people that are in situations where it might not necessarily be appropriate based on how the other person feels, right? Based on like the comfort levels of like the people around you. It gets dicey, right? Because when we're talking about a workplace, we're talking about multiple different dynamics, different people with different value systems and different comfort levels and different ways of showing up. So I think that, yes, it's important to be able to show up vulnerably because I think vulnerability is power. And I don't think that that holding yourself back from your truth is ever something that we should do regardless of the professional situation. But I do think that it is important that when you're in a professional situation, because it can get sticky and it can get dicey, that you have that internal dialogue of, is this a battle I want to fight? Yeah. Am I prepared to go into battle right now? Or is it more in my integrity to just step back and kind of see things from a different perspective. So what it really comes down to is power, being a powerful woman and being a vulnerable woman in a professional scenario, something that you can aspire to or a space that you can occupy. Absolutely. But what does that mean for you? Yeah.
And what does that mean for your situation? So there's my last big like corporate job that I left and set it off with like the flames behind me. I wrote to the CEO of the hospital conglomerate. I went to everybody because I was pissed about the things that were happening in the building I was working in. And in order to sustain my life, I had to find another job before I was able to do that. And so, I also wasn't like picking every little tiny battle either that I didn't care as much about. But with the big ones, when I really left making a big stink about something that was absolutely not okay, that meant finding another job first, and I've moved around quite a bit for that reason. And that's okay. You don't have to spend so much of your life in a place whose ethics and values and policies that impact you and the people you work with make you feel terrible.
Yeah.
You know, you just don't have to. You can move on.
I think there's a lot of people who would say that, you know, well, how do I deal with this situation because I can't leave it? And I get that. But at the same time, it is always within your power to leave. It is always within your power to, like, there are other jobs out there for you.
Yeah.
There are. And as long as we make ourselves, when we say we're stuck, you know, we're keeping ourselves stuck. So there is always opportunity elsewhere, and it's going to require work, and it's going to require effort, and it might, you know, the job market might not be, you know, what it was, and you might have to work really hard to find a job that's suitable for you, but it is possible for you. You don't have to stay in a job that makes you feel small, or in a workplace where you feel powerless, or where you feel it's not okay for you to show up vulnerably. So these are things to consider.
Yeah. And for me, that meant not doing social work anymore. And I'm still, to be honest, aspiring to have the same kind of salary I had as a social worker. So social workers are like crying softly for me right now.
So yes,
I made sacrifices too, but I also don't hate my life anymore, you know? So yeah, and that's a messy answer.
But it is a sacrifice, as you mentioned. So, you know, it's a trade-off. If you don't feel like you're in a place where you can really show up in your integrity, but you really like the benefits, then what you've got to do, I think, in that situation is reframe it.
Yeah.
You really have to reframe it. You just be like, you know what? I'm making this choice because I have a good salary. It's a good situation for me. It's good for my life. It's good for my family. The benefits are great. And this other shit, I'm going to compartmentalize it.
Yeah.
You know, and encapsulate myself from being affected by this energy. And understand that, like, you know, there is a powerful, vulnerable version of me that shows up in this workplace that might not necessarily be able to say all the things that I want to say because I'm choosing the benefits.
Yeah.
And that's okay too. But when you do that, it is your responsibility to then stop complaining about the other stuff. Right? And stop feeling like a victim and stop feeling like I don't get to show up in my workplace as I want to. Because yeah, that sucks, but also you're making the choice.
Yeah.
You're making a choice. So whatever choice you make, stand by it. That would be my advice. Is like, if you choose to show up powerfully and vulnerably in the workplace, stand by that choice. If you choose not to and instead like pick the benefits of the situation, that's okay too. And that's a choice. It's all a choice and it's all up to you.
Yeah.
It doesn't make you less of a feminist. Let's say that.
Right.
It doesn't make you less of a feminist to decide that, like, you know what? I really need this paycheck. And it's maybe not the best situation for me, but the money is really fucking good. And I really like that's a value for me right now. That doesn't make you less of a feminist. Doesn't make you less of an empowered woman.
Yeah. Yeah. And as we're talking, I'm thinking like of 6,000 except fors that are mostly having to do with like discrimination.
Sexual harassment, discrimination. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's always important that we say, well, like when we're discussing this, we're not talking about grave social injustice.
Yeah.
Right? Because I don't think that it's ever okay to stand by and let that be something that's in your peripheral or right in front of you. Yeah. I think that it's always important to stand up. But if it's just like, well, you know, my coworkers don't have the same value system as me, you know, or they like,
my mom wears noise cancellation headphones at work for a variety of reasons, but the main one is just that she likes it to be quiet, and she works with a bunch of women, and so she wears noise cancellation headphones.
Yeah, but if you're walking into a workplace where you know sexual harassment is rampant, or you know there's a lot of racial connotation, you know,
or you can't show up powerfully as yourself because you're not allowed to wear your natural hair, like that's a totally different.
Totally different. These are situations where, yes, stand up and speak up for yourself. And there are channels for that. Yeah. There is a reason why, you know, HR exists. There are channels for this. And if there is behavior like this going on that's unacceptable, chances are that it's illegal as well. So you can fight for that. Those are situations where you can and should fight for that. Yeah. You know, but again, it all comes down to the choices that you are going to commit to.
Yeah.
And if you choose that you want to show up powerfully and vulnerably in the workplace, I commend that choice. And I would suggest that you get really comfortable with your internal dialogue and with, as Erin mentioned, giving yourself a gut check.
Yeah. We're hitting an hour here. We're going to have to do another Q&A soon. You guys have such great questions. You guys, I'm trying not to say that. Y'all.
See.
Such great questions.
Yes, I've been getting a lot of questions about this as well, because you guys it's very colloquial, right? It's not become something that we really necessarily equate with gender, but it is gender specific in its actual, etymology. But it has become a thing that we say, like, you guys. And if that's okay with you, and you've decided that for you this is gender neutral, like for me, I've decided that bro is gender neutral. I call everybody bro, regardless of gender, identification. You're my bro. And I'm just like, bro and dude. Bro and dude are things to me that are gender neutral. So if you say you guys, and to you that's fine, and you've thought it through, more power to you. Me
but you're
personally,
going to be open to feedback, hopefully.
Exactly.
Because there are people, like, I would imagine a trans woman would not want to be called bro if that's something that she spent a lot of time, like, re-identifying.
Absolutely. And in that situation, then I would be respectful of that. Absolutely. But I have personally been trying not to say you guys and saying y'all instead, because guys is, a gender specific term. And for me, it's a little bit more insidious than that. It's more of a, like, we just say it. To me, it's just like another way that we internalize misogyny. Yeah. It's not, so when we use the term bro to everybody, that's a choice. Yeah. That's not internalized. Yeah. And when I say you guys, that's not a choice to say, I like this term, I find it gender neutral. That's internalized. Yeah. That's like, we say you guys, we don't say you girls when it's a group of men or a group of men and women. But we say you guys, regardless of if it's a group of men, women, transgender individuals, or just a group of women, we say you guys, and it's automatic, it's default. So to me, that's why I think it's important to unpack that, because it is so automatic, because it is so default.
Well, and if you turned it around, men would find it offensive if we just said girls to groups of variety of genders, we're like, hey girls, that would be like, what, so it's, I have a friend at the gym, actually a male friend, who calls everybody girl. And I love it. It's like it's amazing. Like, he'll just be like, so girl, to everybody, regardless. He calls everyone. Or if, like, somebody does something, like, really impressive at the gym, he's like, girl, no matter who it is. And he's not gay. What's her name?
He's totally straight.
What's the woman who does Broad City? Do you watch that show?
Yes, I've seen it a few times. Ilana something. Yeah, I like her.
She says girls to everyone all the time, including in like work-related emails. She's like, "What's up, girl?
Hey, girl. Hey, girl."
Gender diverse people, I think it's
so I think that it's
worth thinking
about. I think that it is worth thinking about, and I don't think that there's necessarily a wrong answer. I think that that what we need to do is we need to decide if the language that we're using is default or if it's conscious. So for me, you guys is not something that people consciously have decided is, it's just become the nomenclature. It's just become this default thing. And so because of that, I've decided to try to reverse it. I say y'all all the time, and people are like, but you're not from the South. And I'm like, you don't know my life. You don't. Because the truth is, mind your business. Because if we're really going to get down to brass taxes, I am actually technically from the South, because when my mom's family immigrated here from Iran, they moved to Athens, Georgia. All of my uncles are Bulldogs. And I have 2 cousins and an aunt who still live there who have very thick Southern accents. And I spent all of my summers growing up in Georgia. So I'm allowed. And you're allowed too. You don't have to have that, that ancestry, but
come on,
y'all. So y'all, thanks for joining us on this Q&A today. And as always, if you have questions for us, nastywomanradio@gmail.com, or you can DM Erin or I on the IG. She is at I am Erin Brown, and I am at Neghar Fonooni, which the other day a mailman came and said, I have a package for Neghar. And I was like,
ooh,
that is a new one, and it is so fancy.
I like it.
I was like, yes, this is amazing.
That sounds like a princess name. Yes.
It does. Doesn't it sound like a princess name? Into it. So ask your questions, and we will do our best to answer them.
Talk to you soon.